G'day guys, and today we have extremely important news coming out from Australia. I highly recommend that you share this information to everyone you know so that everyone knows what's going on down under. But here's the funny thing, I can't actually report on the story without getting fucked by the government. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quote something from Melbourne's paper The Age, Melbourne being a city in Australia in case you didn't know. So quote, "A very high profile figure was convicted on Tuesday of a serious crime but we are unable to report their identity due to a suppression order." So there you have it, folks. That's the big news to take away with this. The entirety of the Australian media has been shut down from talking about this extremely important issue because the government says so. This gag order specifically comes from a judge down in Victoria, which is like Australia's California, very progressive and lefty, that sort of thing. I imagine in short time we will find out his or her identity, and then she or he will be raked over the coals for this disgusting manoeuvre. The gag order, as quoted, was to prevent a real and substantial risk of prejudice to the proper administration of justice. You can dress it up as nicely as you want. It doesn't stop the fact that the Australian government is saying, if you talk about this thing, we will come to your house and throw you in a cell. And if you resist, we'll beat the shit out of you or throw you into a cell. And if you're violent enough, we'll just fucking shoot you. So, behave, surf, essentially is what they're saying. And of course we need to understand that this gag order in the digital age is ridiculous. Already, it took me about 5 minutes. No, it didn't even take me 5 minutes. It took me 1 minute to find articles from overseas publications talking about this, and I knew everything about it within the space of a minute. So one wonders why this gag order has to be in place when it's so fucking pointless. And I'll of course be linking to articles down in the description for people to read. I've got one from the Washington Post and one from Breitbart, so left-wing partisanship, isn't present here. And honestly, that's about all I can report on legally without getting fucked over by the government. But something that should be remarked upon is the greater trend that must be noticed here. Australia is honestly still a prison colony. I mean, that's how we were founded, with convicts from Britain transported for various petty crimes. But honestly, guys, look, we can't speak freely, we can't own weapons, we can't defend ourselves. That's another story I need to report on. We can't own property because anytime you own your own land, the government can just walk in and say, hey, we're building a train line here. Hey, we're buying your house. We're going to build a hospital. And yeah, if that doesn't sound like you live in a prison to me, I don't know what does. Australia isn't a republic like the United States. It's actually a democracy. We don't have inalienable rights like you guys have. So whilst you guys may be fucked over by eminent domain and stuff like that, you do have the inalienable right to free speech and the right to bear arms, no matter how hard the government tries to circumvent that. But down here, down under, we're pretty fucked, honestly. There's absolutely nothing we can do other than speak out and potentially get arrested when things like this happen. If I slip up and say the wrong words in this interview or include the wrong images in my background footage, I'm fucked. I could go to jail. It goes well beyond the scope of this case. Being very careful with my words here. I have seen people arguing about the case, about why the case is being brought up and so forth, but we need to look at the bigger picture and understand that there is a severe lack of liberty in Australia. Australian citizens are slaves. They are unable to do things that normal citizens of a first world country should be able to do. At the very least, we should be able to speak freely. The concept of freedom of speech, the idea that human beings should be allowed to express themselves free of persecution, actually began in England. And whilst the English and the wider UK has completely abandoned their ideas of liberty and freedom and that sort of good stuff, I see no reason why Australia should follow suit. In fact, I think we should be doing the exact opposite. As I said, Australia was founded as a prison colony, based on one set of humans owning another set of humans as property. They were slaves, essentially. They had just committed crimes prior to their enslavement. Why must we perpetuate this past into the future with a mere veneer of civility and excess resources? We're still slaves, everyone. I am doing my part, no matter how small or insignificant, relevant to larger figures within the alt media, to create a free society within Australia. And this all starts with calling things by their proper names. Australia is still a prison colony, and what we're seeing here today is the prison guard pointing his gun at the prisoners and saying, "Shut up, or there'll be trouble." Thanks all for sticking around. Please spread this information as far as wide as possible, wake people up, and have a good one.